Hello and welcome to the 9th and final episode of the ACC's Netball Podcast Court Session, brought to you by the Export Beer Garden. My name is Sam Winders, and with me once again for our lucky last episode, I have Erena Mikaere. Erena, how are you feeling today?
Oh, look, I've seen better days, and I don't know if that's because I woke up and, remembered that the placings for the World Cup have finally placed, but the day still goes on and life still moves on. So, yeah, okay, Sammy, and you?
I'm a bit the same. When I woke up again this morning, because, of course, the game was at the Silver Ferns played Jamaica in the bronze medal match at 2 a.m. this morning. And when I woke up again, so watched the game, Silver Ferns lost, went back to sleep, woke up, it could have just not even happened. It could have just been this bad nightmare that I had. And I had to go online and check the score to make sure. And, of course, it was the nightmare that we were all thinking about. So, yeah, I'm a bit tired, of course, but that's okay. Yeah, you're right. The sun came up and life goes on.
Life does go on, Sammy. And Australia won the World Cup overall, but we're here to talk about the Silver Ferns playing Jamaica. I know Aussie not absolutely, but thrashed England, which I thought was going to be the case when we played England, so we would move into that and place with a medal. But we seemingly leave this World Cup this year without a medal.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time, the entire length of however long this Netball World Cup has been going on for, since the 60s or 70s, I think, maybe the 80s, who knows. It's the first time we've never not medalled. So that's a real bugger, a real shame. And you can imagine the girls are just a bit sad about it all, of course. I mean, nobody wants to walk away from a Netball World Cup. You go there. The Silver Ferns went there with the trophy as defending champions. So it's definitely a few notches below from where they were aiming for. And our hearts go out to the girls because we've both been in positions where you want to win and you don't. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to come forth. And I think hats off to the rest of the world, because in the space of 4 years from that last World Cup, there are teams out there who are full competitors, not just participants, although there was certainly a number of those at this World Cup. There's teams that are pushing us. They're pushing the rest of the world. And if New Zealand doesn't do anything about it, these guys are just going to overtake us with their creativity.
Yes, well, essentially, Sammy, if we dive into that, they have caught up to us, right? It was in Australia, New Zealand thrashing most of the time. There was no doubt that those two were in the final every year until we start getting into these recent years and the recent cups and, with things going on. And I guess looking into it, they've caught up with having international players and things, but also their benchies. So if we look at that last game against Jamaica, they had Rob Wright on the bench, who is assistant coach at Mystics, so here in New Zealand. So he knows how we play. He knows each and every. He's good upstairs. He knows each and every player from the ANZ tournament. He's got the info.
He's a mastermind too. Rob Wright. Yeah. I'll just put it out there. He's an absolute mastermind. Like, you look at him and he has those half-match interviews or whatever with his headphones on, and you just know there is like some cogs turning in his brain.
But then not only that, Sammy, we saw your coach from this year, Ranga, who was she with this week?
Ranga Bloxham, yeah, she was on the bench for Wales. England, who played in the final gold medal match, they had Liana Leota, who's played in World Cups for New Zealand. You're right. So not just on the court are we upskilling players, but we're upskilling them by assisting them, I guess, off the court in terms of our coaching staff. But if we do look at on the court, I counted 5 Jamaican players playing in the Australian League, plus a few playing in the English League. I don't think we've got any Jamaicans playing in the New Zealand League currently. So Aussie, thank goodness they won, because the last World Cup, it was a bit of an issue for them that they had opened their doors to as many international players basically as any team wanted in their domestic league. So in New Zealand, we have a maximum international player count of 1 per team maximum. In Aussie, some of the teams are half international players in their domestic league. And when Aussie didn't win the World Cup, and then they didn't win the Commonwealth Games as well, 2 years, like that was back to back, Aussie were like, shit, we've done this to ourselves. We've let all these international players and made them really good, and now we can't win because they're too good. But Aussie won the World Cup, so thankfully it's all good, hunky-dory now. But I just have to say, I'm excited now. All you want is competition, right? You don't, like, how hard were those first 3 or 4 games for us to watch New Zealand steamroll teams by 60 plus goals? Like, that's not fun to watch. We want to watch as many teams as possible battling it out right at the end. Surely New Zealand, like, obviously you want New Zealand to win at the end, but the fact that it is competitive gets people watching.
Exactly. You want our players to be playing the best.
Yes.
You know, and to be able to put out in, what do you call it, an opportunity to be able to play your best out there, where you're not just going out there and go, well, you know, you kind of lapse in moments like that when it's kind of a boring game and you're like, okay, I don't want to lapse. In these games, there's no time to lapse. You have to stay on your game 100. Exactly.
The only time you're going to get tested or to actually see how good of a netballer you are is when you come up against the best opposition.
Exactly, Sammy. All right, well, going into that, we've not seen this result since, was it 2018, Sammy?
Yeah, the last time the New Zealanders, Silver Ferns, didn't podium at a pinnacle event, so Com Games or Netball World Cup, was in 2018 at the Commonwealth Games. And that was a pretty massive tournament. I was there. I was part of that. I used to say, I'd go around schools afterwards and I'd say I was part of the least successful Silver Ferns team at a Commonwealth Games ever, just to be really dramatic about it. But at the time, it was dramatic. It was the biggest thing I've ever been a part of in terms of the backlash. And we returned from the Gold Coast without a medal, and we were expected to get a medal. And I had to leave the country again. I went to Rarotonga and got engaged, which was really lovely. But I had to leave the country because people were not happy with us. Fans weren't happy. The media was pretty outraged. And internally, the Silver Ferns had to go through a huge review. Netball New Zealand actually did, right from the top. So we had meetings and interviews and all sorts of things happening. So that was what was happening in 2018. And like I said in the last episode, the turnaround from that was that we got Nolene as a coach and we won the World Cup. What happens this year? What are our predictions?
Yeah, well, Sammy, listening to the post-match interview from Knowles and Mills spoke, they asked you the very same question about the result from previous time that you just spoke of, and then obviously going into this one and it being one of the worst positions New Zealand have been in at a World Cup. That, is it the same? And she suggested that no, it wasn't, because of, I guess, internal things that were going on. And then they look at, obviously you've got a whole lot of teams competing this year, and you know, in terms of the difference to previous years and things like that, they speak about how the teams are now, obviously what we just spoke about, way better than they were in previous years. I think they go at how old, back in the days, Knowles' times, it's not the same netball game. And I think that's quite a good fact to come to too. It's not the same game. I mean, I watched that game and I was like, how many attacking contacts are there? You know, like, what was going on? Because I was like, I wish this happened in an ANZ game where the attackers got called for contact, because I was not, just for me, maybe they're just seeing the retaliation.
I agree, because I feel like, so when you get to these international games, you never get your New Zealand refs. So we've gone a whole domestic season with New Zealand referees umpiring us, and you come to international and you have a completely different style of refereeing. And we had 2 Australian umpires and they pinged New Zealand for attacking contacts, which Erena and I both played defensive positions on the court, and we will both tell you that was going on all year and they never got pulled. So we're a bit like, oh yeah, yes, that was definitely a contact. But that's like a major adjustment for players to make. And then you come across, you watch the Aussie game where they've got, so the final, New Zealand was represented in that by our 2 umpires. So kudos to Ange and Gareth. Good job keeping the New Zealand flag flying high. But the umpiring styles are different, and you could hear those bloody Aussie commentators like bagging the New Zealand umpires, which, like, I think I've said this before, it's the only time I've ever felt defensive of an umpire.
I feel like this is a good opportunity for us to start sending umpires overseas, so they do the SSM maybe, and we get some over our way.
Yes, do a little interchange.
Yes, do a stop over here and there, and you know, it's just for certain games. They come back and forth. I mean, that could be an opportunity. But speaking of attacking contacts and shooters, Sammy, now I guess we spoke about it in the last podcast about how with Grace Nowicki, things may have been different. And this was also spoken about in the media, in the press conference after the game. But I saw a comment online, which I thought was very interesting. So I want to know your thoughts around it. So someone wrote in a comment, their own comment, obviously their own thoughts. Without,
are you putting a disclaimer? These are not my thoughts.
Disclaimer, I did not write this. But I actually thought, okay, well, kudos, like I'm here for it. Like I kind of agree.
Yeah,
so they're saying without Janelle Fowler, Jamaica would lose. Without Cardwell or Howsby, England would lose. Without Steph Wood, Aussie would lose. So without Grace Nowicki, New Zealand lose. Thoughts on that, Sammy? Because, well, essentially it kind of has happened without Grace Nowicki out. But the fact that they're saying without a big shooter, it makes it harder to win. And I'm just speaking from your experience coming from Steel.
Yeah, well, so my experience this year with it was that we lost our international shooter. She's an English shooter, George Fisher, and she went down with an injury before the season started. So we didn't have her all season. We never got a same leveled shooter as her as a replacement, because obviously everyone's already taken in other teams. And we didn't win a game this year. So yeah, if I'm thinking about shooters having an influence on the outcome of matches, definitely that. I'm not sure about if Grace Nowicki is the example, though. I've been thinking about this because Silver Ferns won the Consolation Cup without Grace Nowicki. We had Maya and Melia Ann. That was our shooting combination. So it's not an old shooting combination. So I thought, maybe there's something. I was like, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. I mean, Grace Nowicki is a big deal, but we'll be fine.
Yep.
But what you're saying around the other teams, if Jamaica lost Janelle, they've got Romaldo on the bench as well, who's the same height as her and probably had just as many years experience. So that's the depth. We were talking about it before. These teams just have depth on shooters coming out their ears. It's ridiculous.
Yes, wow. To link on from that comment, I saw something that made me laugh. And disclaimer, once again, I did not say this, but I thought it was hilarious because okay, I'll explain what the comment was and I'll tell you why. So the comment said, we must blame Bailey Mears for our loss. So I laughed because this girl isn't even there. So we must blame her for retiring, right? So she retired.
How dare she make big life decisions like that without even consulting the fans? How dare she want
to live? Yes, how dare she want to live? But we must blame it on her. Firstly, which my partner pointed out, she wasn't even there. Secondly, she retired for her own, whatever they may be, her life reasons. Yet we must blame her because she was not there. Yeah. And I'm like,
Bailey, I hope you're listening. Bailey, this is all your fault.
Yeah, exactly. But point being, don't come at my friends who aren't even at the World Cup. Mate, she's off living her life. So yeah,
disclaimer: don't come at any of E's friends because she will come at you, whether they're at the World Cup or not. Don't come at them.
I saw it. I was like, "What? Sorry, what?" Can't wait to remove myself from some groups, but hey, I don't know.
So Bailey wasn't at the World Cup. She wasn't one of our benchies, but I want to quickly touch on the bench because I don't think we've talked about enough this tournament, but we found it very interesting to watch how the bench operates. And the bench is basically like the what do they call it in rugby? The dugout or something on the side of the court. But you don't really see what's happening on rugby ones because there's so many people. But the camera and in rugby, they just go into the change room at halftime, which the Ferns do as well, but they also sit on the bench at quarter time. And so you get an insight into what goes on there. We spoke previously about an disagreement between two players saying one had her gel and then she was coming off and she was like, I've just had 30 grams of carbohydrates and 500 kilojoules of energy and you should have told me before I had my gel that I was coming off. So that was quite fascinating. But what I saw last night was, and maybe it's why Jamaica won, these girls would get off the court, sit on the sideline, they'd be wrapped in this nice fluffy white towel around their shoulders and get a shoulder rub from, I don't know who it was. Maybe they had a masseuse on the bench. They were getting these beautiful shoulder rubs. Isn't that just nice?
That is nice, Sammy. I was actually watching at one point and I thought, don't they have a physio bed? Because one of the girls was getting like her foot, like she had her full foot or shoe off, lying horizontal on chairs, getting her foot rubbed. I was like,
taking up the benches.
It's all going on the bench for Jamaica. But in saying that, Sammy, about the bench, like what actually makes a good benchie? Because let's talk about those girls who never made the court that day. And yes, well, maybe in New Zealand team, nearly everyone made the court. But hey, and some of those ones in the Jamaican side or whatnot who did not make the game, how do they be the best benchie?
And I think this is also a lesson to everybody out there who plays a team sport and may not be getting as much court time as they thought they would at the start of the season. We're all like, I've paid my subs, give me some court time. But if you didn't, I always like to think of if I'm on the bench, because you and I have both been there, you want to be the best benchie that you possibly can be. For me, that looks like knowing people's preferences. Do you like lollies or do you like gels? So when they come off, I know exactly what I'm giving them. I have paper towels, 2 paper towels folded up nicely on their seat. So when people come off the court, they've got their paper towel ready to go. I've got the little rubbish bag, the hand around, and then when the players go back onto the court, you spend the first couple minutes of that quarter just tidying up that bench. You do not want cameras to pan across the bench and see crumpled up, disgusting tissues on the ground.
Yeah, you got to look like a tidy Kiwi. Kiwi.
Exactly.
That was
uphold the reputation, people.
Yeah. That was always Laura's number one goal on the bench was to Laura Langman, that is whānau, to be a tidy Kiwi on the bench. So yeah.
Exactly. The World Cup is wrapped up and teams are finally, after 10 days, have played 8 games. I don't know if they've got energy to even let their hair down and have a good time. Probably the Aussies because they might be the most happiest. But England looked pretty happy too. Jamaica were happy. Hopefully the New Zealanders have some energy to get out there and get a bit wild. But our podcast is called Court Session. When does the actual court session happen for these players? Is it at the World Cup? Do they go home and do it? I feel like it might be happening tonight.
I feel like, yes, it happens tonight, Sammy. Well, because it's the only opportunity you'll all be together. Like for our girls, so for example, they split up all over the country when they get back. They're in a different country, so why not enjoy it? You get to go back to the hotel and have your own, I guess, boardroom. I mean, you've been in some, Sammy, because I know those are some of the, and I guess, when you don't win and you're put in the position, sometimes you either want to just have a little bit of, a cuddle with your sorrows, and that's, your court session is it, and you like drop people in it. Well, you know what? You got injured, fine, drink, so it's kind of a good time to get everything off the chest. Yeah. What are your experiences with that, Sammy? Because I know you've been in some good court sessions after some good tournaments. Oh,
yes, definitely. We've had the best ones are when you've got a trophy that you can drink out of course. That always makes a big difference, I think. And when you're right, like a court session that you can just release everything, release attention, which is why if you've lost, it's the best time to do it. And then you just wake up the next day just feeling hungover rather than feeling disappointed about your loss. Although it's a professional athlete, so maybe they don't drink, which is absolutely fine. We're not condoning that, or we're not saying you need to.
But drinking's sport gold.
Yeah, and that. But you can drink that.
My favourite story, and I know this is kind of off subject down the lines, but it is a netball drinking story. So, and actually going forward, the New Zealand men's team just got announced, and the New Zealand Fast 5 men's team. So congratulations to all of them, because I know a couple of them listen to this, and our men's players are amazing. But there's a story about when we went out one time with one of those men's players, Sammy, and it makes me laugh. Can you please just tell it, just a little snippet, because it's hilarious.
Yes. Okay, so we finished up playing in the Cadbury Series last year, and that was against the men. And then we went out for a good time. I think Danny Doolan's in Auckland. Everybody knows that place, and it goes off any night of the week. So we were there having a good time. We're having a good boogie. The men were there. And one of the guys and the men, all of the guys actually are just amazing to be out with, because they're
so much fun, aren't they?
They are so much fun. They know how to party. And anyway, so we're having a good time. And then one of the guys comes up and says, "Excuse me, Sammy, is this man bothering you? And there was a man next to me and he was pestering me and in my face and talking to me and trying to get my attention. I was just there having a good time. And one of the guys comes and says, is this man bothering you? And I turned and looked at him. I said, actually, yes, he is, but it's my husband. So, and Joe was like, oh my gosh.
And that's not happened to you once, but twice after a couple of netball tournaments, hasn't it, Sammy? So I think that's hilarious.
My best of a husband. God bless his soul.
I think it was after Fast Five, and someone goes, that guy's staring at Sammy. I'm like, that's okay, that's your husband. That's right. I hope he's staring at her. That's her husband. But anyway, that men's team just got it out. So congratulations to the men's team and also the lot that are going along to Fast Five. So more netball for us because that's what we love. Now, Sammy, going into some questions that we got sent. This is our last couple of questions from some listeners. Yeah. The first one was, there's lots of players retiring after this World Cup. Who will you miss watching play? And from the person who wrote this, they said, for me, it's Jiba, and I hope you two keep the podcast going. So thank you for that, Roberta. But thoughts, who are you going to miss? Who retires from this, or who you might seem to retire? Because I think Maui Kumwendam announced that she won't be. Yeah, I don't know. I saw that on the forum.
She's going to go retire to her castle in Malawi because she's a queen.
Yeah, I'm like, is that true news or because it came up on the forum? But anyway, who will you miss?
Who will I miss? Who's retiring? Jiva. If Jiva's retiring, then definitely her. Well, if she is, I know she is. Ash Brazel, I'm going to miss her. Yes. She's so fun to watch and so athletic and just such good energy. Like they get filmed coming into the stadium, getting off the bus, doing the old staunch headphones on kind of thing. And she's just like, yeah, shaka mahala. At the chemo, which I love.
She is good vibes. I think mine have already retired, so it would have been obviously Bailey Mears and April Brandley or Lytton. They didn't go this year, but yes. And then on top of that, I will definitely miss watching Jiva because, one Annex teammate, and I just think before she's even taken the court, a lot of shooters already, they've scared of her. So I'll just, so I'll miss that little battle.
Nice.
Okay, the next question was, for the next World Cup, what needs to be done?
Something different. Let's do it differently, I think.
Yeah.
Because a lot of focus, we've talked about this, a lot of focus this World Cup was not 100% replicating what we did at the last World Cup. I'm talking Silver Ferns. Not 100% replicating it, but we did it very similar. Like we had similar structure, similar camps. So maybe just do something different. Just be creative with it. Go to Jamaica for your preseason camp. That could be cool. That's my thing. Do something different. And let's have it. Shout out to South Africa because in the end the crowd was really awesome. Yeah. But maybe the structure of the actual World Cup, so our build-up games actually give us a good chance to prepare for these finals. And can we spread it out a bit? 8 games in 10 days is not good for elite athletes who are putting their bodies on the line every day.
I wondered. I was going to say something similar to that. Do we have to change our NZ League to have some games, have a break, have some games, have a break? Do we prepare them? Who knows? My thing for the next World Cup would be, we've got a whole lot of younger players coming through. How do we, we've got, there'll be a whole lot of players moving out in the next cycle of 4 years. Yeah. So how do we link on, I guess, the leadership into these younger ones, grow that. What things are out there for them to grow that? Nice. And then who is coming through? I don't think my child will be ready in another 4 years, maybe 4 years later. Let's go. Let's go. But okay, so on to the next question, Sammy.
Yeah.
There was a proposal and someone asked us our thoughts on the proposal, but instead of just going thoughts, would you like to be proposed to at the Netball World Cup?
Well, no. Sorry. But I know I'm a netball geek, but man, that's just, I never wanted I was a bit picky. I just didn't want people around. Like I just wanted just it for you to be private. Yeah.
That's totally beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I missed the wedding people. I didn't get an invite to the wedding. Okay. No.
Yeah, we were just early friends back when everyone. It's a long time ago.
I like to hold Sammy up for that all the time. I think for myself, I think it's beautiful for her. I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah, for her, it looked nice. Not that I saw it, but it sounds nice.
Meanwhile, my hands are empty, so I got nothing to say.
Yeah,
I can't say nothing. Anyway, last question, last but not least, who was your player of the tournament?
Oh, Mary Chalk. Mary.
Cool. That's so cool.
I know. I was just trying to think. There was a couple of early games, like that Ugandan game when they pushed us. We're even at halftime, and there was a wee mid-quarter who was pretty swish then too. But Mary's just so beautiful to watch. So, yeah, she's the big goal shoot in the Ugandan team. Yeah.
Agreed. I think that's cool. I didn't actually think of her. I thought, well, Australia won. Yeah. So maybe it needed to be from Australia. And then my hands held one side step forward because she's just beautiful to watch.
She
and then on the other side, Jamie Lee Price.
End. Oh, sorry. I was still talking about Steph Ford.
No, that's right.
End. Yeah. And sorry, and who's the other one?
Jamie Lee Price. And I think that's because I kind of wanted some New Zealand blood in there. So I was like, you know what? Jamie. Yeah, because she's, New Zealand, Australian. So, I think I'm going to go. It would be between those two. Can't pick one.
Okay. In other news, because this is just really quick. Speaking of Uganda and Mary, they beat South Africa for 5th and 6th. I kind of missed that. So the top 8, Tonga got 8th. So that's Kat Tuiviti, Chief Mental, Moni Gerard, 8th for Tonga, 7th for Malawi, 6th for South Africa, the host nation, 5th for the She Cranes, Uganda, 4th Silver Ferns, 3rd Sunshine Gals from Jamaica, 2nd England, 1st Diamonds, Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a World Cup it's been, Sammy. And if we had gone back and I had to predict that wouldn't have been how I would have placed top 8. But you know what? It is a learning year and it is something we just have to put up with. And, the sun rises again tomorrow and we can't be happy for the sun without the rain. So, hey, this is what we dealt.
That's beautiful, E. And you and I have had a lot of fun the last 9 days, having good netball chats. E and I used to drive to trainings together, like for 3 years in a row, basically 3-4 days a week. So we'd get a lot of chat out in those car rides. And a lot of people, we used to tell people we're solving the problems of the world and nobody understood us. So nobody believed that was actually what was happening. So here we are solving the problems of the world again. Well, the netball world, we'll start with that anyway. So we're just grateful for this opportunity and thank you to everybody who has tuned in to listen, to get caught up on the game. If you didn't watch the game before, we're happy to be the inside knowledge, breaking the game down for you. And we've had a heck of a load of fun. Who knows what's next for us? We're going to have to go talk to G-Lane, do some bargaining with him maybe at the ACC and see if he's got any wee jobs for us if he's that way inclined.
Hey, and feel free to keep sending your DMs. If they're funny, I'll keep replying. If they're not, I might not answer them. But hey, if you want to, send them to ACC too and tell them you miss us. That might work too.
Put in a plug for us. Awesome, E. It's been so good. Thanks for joining me, E. Once again, lots of fun having good chats with my mate.
Always a pleasure, Sammy. And for the last time, court session, we out.